Good afternoon to you all. Today I want to take up the topic about sexual reproduction in the flowering plants. So in this lesson you are going to learn about the parts of flower. In case of angiosperms, the reproductive structure is nothing but the flower. So this flower consists of male reproductive and also the female reproductive structures. And in this lesson you are going to learn about microsporogenesis, megasporogenesis, structure of pollen grain, structure of ovule, how do these pollination takes place, in case of flowers which are pollinated by wind, what are the adaptations, etc. And also the pre-fertilization events. That is, under pre-fertilization events, you are going to learn about the gametogenesis, that is nothing but microsporogenesis and megasporogenesis. Then fertilization, in this double fertilization and triple fusion you can notice. Then post-fertilization events, which includes the formation of embryo, embryogenesis, and also the seed formation and the endosperm formation, apomixis, polyembryony, all these things you are going to learn in this lesson, that is a sexual reproduction in flowering plants. So from the examination point of view, you have to put emphasis upon the 5-mark question, that is microsporogenesis, development of male gametophyte and development of female gametophyte. Then why pollen grains are considered as living fossils, all these things we have given it, all these things in the question. So coming to the topic, the parts of flower, the most fascinating part in case of angiosperm, it is nothing but the flower. So this flower, if you take the longitudinal section of flower, you can see the structures, the accessory parts and also non-accessory parts, what we can say essential parts of the reproductive structure. Non-essential parts are the sepals and petals, they are arranged in the form of whorls, we can say. All these whorls are arranged on a swollen part that is called as the thalamus. So the flower is the modified shoot. It is developed from floral primordia, the meristematic tissue. The primordia first develops into the floral bud and then into a flower. So the reproductive part of a plant is nothing but the flower. Androecium, it is the male reproductive part, and also gynoecium is the female reproductive part of a flower. So then coming to in detail the male reproductive structure, that is the stamen. The stamen consists of a thin elongated thread-like structure that is called as filament. Upon this filament you can find a bilobed structure. The bilobed structure nothing but the anther. And this bilobed structure, if you see carefully, you can find a longitudinal ridge, it is there. This longitudinal ridge, it is dividing each lobe into 2 theca. So if you take the transverse section, these theca, a tetragonal structure you can find these theca are placed at each corner of this tetragonal structure. So then a longitudinal groove lengthwise separates this the so-called as a theca. You can clearly see the tetragonal structure in case of the structure of anther. Then each corner of this tetragonal structure you can find a microsporangium, singular microsporangium, plural sporangia. So totally 4 microsporangia are present in the transverse section of this anther. These microsporangia, each lobe fuse as a pollen sac. Finally this microsporangia, when it matures, it develops into the pollen sac. The pollen sac consists of pollen grains. A microsporangium is a circular structure and it is surrounded by 4 layers. What are those 4 layers? Outermost one, it is called as epidermis. Below this one is endothecium, and below the endothecium you can find the middle layers, and below the middle layers you can find the tapetum. The outermost layer acts as a protective structure, and it protects the pollen and helps in the dehiscence of the anther during pollen release. So, what is the role of this tapetum? So, next slide I will show the transfer section of this anther. The tapetum nourishes the developing pollen grain. So, the tapetum, it is a nutritive structure, nutritive tissue which is present below the middle layers, and the tapetum is filled with nutrients. It is a binucleate structure. So, binucleate structure, which the cells of this tapetum, it is binucleate and it is filled with nourishment, and this tapetum nourishes the developing pollen grains. So, below this tapetum, the innermost region of this sporangium, microsporangium, consists of the sporogenous tissue. Each tissue, it is capable of developing into microspore mother cell or pollen mother cell. So, the process of formation of microspores from a pollen mother cell through meiosis, that is called as microsporogenesis. The sporogenous tissue, just now I told, each cell in the sporogenous tissue, it is capable of developing into a microspore mother cell or pollen mother cell. So then gametogenesis, naturally during this process, these microspore mother cells or the pollen mother cell, what it undergoes, what kind of division it undergoes, that it is meiosis. So because of meiosis, what it happens, the cells of the sporogenous tissue undergo the division and forms the microspore tetrad. So on maturation and dehydration of the anther, the spores dissociate and develop into pollen grains. Pollen grains, when do these pollen grains gets released? When the anther matures, the splitting of the anther takes place. That process, what we will call it as dehiscence of anther. So this in detail they have given the so-called as microsporogenous tissue in the form of in stepwise cells of the sporogenous tissue. It undergoes meiosis and 4 haploid cells are present or formed, and these 4 haploid cells, when the anther matures, it undergoes dehydration and dissociate, and the tetrad cells separates and they are going to get formed into your pollen. The other name for this pollen, what we will call it as microspore or male gametophyte, what we will call. So, microspore, pollen grain or male gametophyte. So, the pollen grain is not the male gamete. The pollen grain consists of male gametes. So, this is the point one has to remember. So, when it comes to the structure of pollen grain, the pollen grain, it is more or less spherical in shape. The shape varies from flower to flower. So, it consists of outermost layer called as exine, and below this layer you can find the intine. So, why pollen grains are considered as the living fossils? The reason is that the exine is made up of a substance called as sporopollenin, and it is resistant to organic acid, alkalis, high temperature, enzymes, etc. So, these pollen grains are considered as living fossils. So, upon this pollen grain, if you observe carefully, a minute pores called as germ pores are present where sporopollenin is absent. Below this exine, you can find intine, which is a continuous layer. It is made up of, it consists of substance called as cellulose and pectin. So, you can see the structure of pollen grain. In the pollen grain, at a 2-celled stage, that is, one is the vegetative cell and the other one is the generative cell. In case of vegetative cell, the nucleus is irregular in shape and it is filled with nutrients, and the generative cell is smaller, and this generative cell only further it undergoes division, forms into male gametes. This from this vegetative cell on germination, from the germ pore, the pollen tube comes out. That only what we will call it as pollen germination. So, when the pollen grain during the process of pollination, what it happens when it reaches the stigma. So then the stigma identifies it as a compatible pollen grain. Then only the pollen grain will germinate. From the germ pore, the pollen tube comes out. So from the vegetative cell, the pollen tube comes out through the germ pore. So this the generative cell divides into two to form two male gametes. Usually, in case of angiosperm, 60% of angiosperm at a two-celled stage, the dehiscence of the anthers takes place. Rest of the angiosperms at three-celled stage, the pollen is going to get released from the anther. Then, so whatever I told that the pollen grain consists of cytoplasm surrounded by plasma membrane, vestigial cell is bigger, abundant reserve food material and irregular nucleus. Generative cell is small and also floats in the vestigial cell. 60% of species of pollen grains are shed at two-celled stage. Rest of 40% are shed at three-celled stage. So the generative cell divides mitotically to form two male gametes. So this is about microsporogenesis. The stamen consists of filament and anther, and this anther, transverse section of this anther, you can find all these things, that is the microsporangia, the development of microspore, that nothing but we call it as, the other name for microspore, it is male gametophyte. Then coming to the next aspect, that is the female reproductive unit. We call it as pistil, carpel, like that. There are different names are there. Don't get confused, synonyms, these are pistil, carpels, etc. If only one carpel it is there, it is called as monocarpellary image. If more than two, if two are there, bicarpellary, more than two, that condition what we will call it as multicarpellary. And if the carpels are fused, that condition what we will call it as syncarpus. If the carpels are free, that condition it is called apocarpus. Then coming to the structure of this pistil or carpel or gynoecium, etc. Here, if you observe carefully, each pistil has the swollen basal part that is called as ovary, an elongated structure, style, and it ends with a stigma. So the cavities which are present in the ovary, these are called as locules. In this locule, you can find the ovules. The ovule may be sometimes one or more, it is also observed. So, this ovule arises from the primordia of on placenta. The short stalk with which the ovule attached to the placenta, what we will call it as funicle. So, the primordium grows into a mass of cells forming nucellus, the body of ovule. The protective covering of this ovule, what we will call it as integuments, a minute pore which is present at the tip of this ovule, what we will call it as micropyle. So when it comes to the diagram, I will show what is micropyle. So the cells of the nucleus, nucellus are rich in reserve food, a single embryo sac. In case of ovule, which one it is called as female gametophyte? The embryo sac, it is called as female gametophyte. So, so if you observe carefully, this is the structure of the so-called as ovule or the megasporangium, the anatropous ovule. So the embryo sac which is present inside this ovule, it consists of the agar ovum. So agar ovum, this minute pore which is present here, I am sorry. Yeah, when it comes to the megasporangium or the ovule, you can find the embryo sac. Around this embryo sac, you can find the integuments. These integuments are protective in nature. And the stalk, it is called as funicle. The minute pore which is present here, then it is called as micropyle. Opposite to this micropyle, what it is present, that is the chelaza. And if you observe carefully, in case of embryo sac, the embryo sac consists of 7-celled and 8 nucleate it is present. That I will tell in the latter, that is megasporogenesis. So, the cells which are present at the posterior region, that the micropylar region, what we will call it as egg apparatus, it is called as. Why it is called as egg apparatus? It consists of a central egg or oospore, and it is laden on either side by means of synergids. I cannot show the filiform apparatus, but the synergids consists of a structure that is called as filiform apparatus, and this filiform apparatus directs the pollen tube towards the egg or ovum. And the central cell consists of 2 polar nuclei and fuses to form secondary nucleus. Opposite to that, you can find antipodal cells. So, and these integuments are the protective layers. This is the structure of megasporangium or the ovule. So, this it develops from the megaspore. Okay. So, then one of the nucellar cells in the micropylar region is differentiated into megaspore mother cell, it is called as. So that megaspore mother cell. So can you see this? So the micropylar end, one of the cell, it is laden with nutrients etc. towards the micropylar end. What we will call it as megaspore mother cell, what we will call. This megaspore mother cell undergoes division to form megaspore tetrad. Out of 4 megaspores, 3 will degenerate, only one it is going to become functional. No doubt whatsoever, if it is a sporogenous tissue, definitely, so whatsoever it is, if it is a reproductive tissue, it is definitely it has to undergo meiotic division only, no doubt in that. So out of 4 cells, what it will happen? Usually the megaspore mother cells are diploid. It undergoes a division, reduction division, form megaspore tetrad. Out of that, 3 will degenerate. Only one it is going to become functional. That is called as monosporic development. Out of 4 megaspore cells, only one it is going to become functional. This kind of development, it is called as monosporic development, what we can say. So, here you can see cells in the nucellus near the micropylar region, they will undergo the so-called as meiosis, the formation of megaspore. From megaspore mother cells, here what we will call it as monosporic development, it is called as. So, the 4 haploid cells in the micropylar region, 3 will degenerate and only 1 will become functional. Now again this functional megaspore enlarges to, in this the nucleus undergoes mitotic division, 2 nuclei and 4 nuclei also form. Then they will start moving towards poles. Chelazal end 3 will be there. They form the antipodals. Micropylar end 3 is going to form egg apparatus. The remaining 2 nuclei, polar nuclei, it will be present in the central cell. So 2 nuclei, it is going to become 4 and 4 it is further dividing to form 8 nuclei. Okay, how it is, let us see through the diagram. Okay. Yeah, can you see this? So, once the functional megaspore it is formed, the nucleus is undergoing mitotic division. The nucleus it is undergoing mitotic division to form 4 nuclei and 8 nuclei. So among that 8 nuclei, total 8 nuclei will be formed. So in that 3 move towards the micropylar end. Just now I told the cells, the cell wall formation takes place later. Then the two nuclei will be present at the central cell. Opposite to the micropylar end, three nuclei will be present. Those are called as those are going to develop antipodal stage. So the functional megaspore enlarges. It undergoes mitotic division to form two nuclei, move towards opposite pole. Again, second mitotic division takes place. Four nuclei at each pole it is getting formed. Wall formation takes place only after this stage. Then the chalazar end, it consists of three antipodals. The micropylar end forms the egg apparatus. Remaining two polar nuclei, it is present in the large central cell. So now the embryo sac after the nuclear division and also the cell wall formation once takes place. This one is a large central nucleus consisting of two polar nuclei and the egg apparatus. The egg tip is laden on either side by means of synergids. So seven celled 8 nucleate stage, this is called as the functional embryo sac, consists of 7 celled 8 nucleate stage. So then coming to the next aspect, that is pollination. So once the anther matures, the anther dehiscence, the splitting of the anther takes place. It can be a longitudinal, it can be horizontal also, it occurs. The pollination, what we are calling the transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of a flower, that it is called as pollination. Again, this pollination we are classifying into self-pollination and cross-pollination. Self-pollination, wherein which the pollen grain, the transfer of pollen grain takes place from anther to the stigma of the same flower, or the different flower present in the same plant, then it is called as self-pollination. Cross-pollination, so what I usually tell, the transfer of pollen grain from anther to the stigma of different flower but belonging to the same species. This point one has to remember. Again, this is self-pollination. We are classifying into two, autogamy and geitonogamy. Auto means self-pollination only, but the transfer of pollen grain reaches from the stigma from anther to the stigma of the same flower. Anther to the stigma of the same flower. In case of geitonogamy, it is just like the autogamy only. The transfer takes place from anthers to the stigma of the flowers present in the same plant. We call it as geitonogamy. It is just like autogamy, because after all the pollen grains are formed in the plant and in the flowers which are present in the same plant. So then autogamy again chasmogamy and cleistogamy. In the sense the flowers which never open, the cleistogamous flowers are completely closed. Then there is no question of cross-pollination, self-pollination. Invariably it has to take place. It provides an assured seed set in case of cleistogamous flowers. Pollination, definitely it will take place. Example for cleistogamous flowers is viola, oxalis, etc. So then coming to the chasmogamous flower, just like any other flowers with exposed anthers and stigma, wherein which there exists a synchrony between pollen release and stigma receptivity. That only in case of chasmogamous flower it is observed, it is noticed. Then the cross-pollination, they are giving the name as xenogamy. The pollination takes place between the two flowers presenting two different plants but belonging to the same species. That only what we will call it as pollination. So then the devices of autogamy, we are going to discuss anther and stigma. They should lie close to each other, the simultaneous maturation of anther and pistil. Then in case of cleistogamous flower, example for this cleistogamous flower is Oxalis commelina and viola. Adaptation of wind pollinated flowers. So in case of wind pollinated flowers, the flowers are produced in the form of bunches, inflorescence. And also the pollen grains are light and non-sticky. Sometimes they are winged also. They have well exposed anther, large and feathery stigma, and flowers are arranged as inflorescence. In case of these flowers, a single ovule it will be present. In case of wind pollinated flowers. Water pollinated flowers. In case of submerged plants like Hydrilla, Vallisneria, Jostera, etc., the flowers, male flowers will be released from the bunch or from the inflorescence. It will float on the surface of the water, it will move along the water current, and the female flowers having long stalk and they will float on the surface of the water. Whenever this male flower comes in contact with the female, then there is the transfer of pollen grains. Pollen grains takes place. In case of seagrasses, pollen grains are long, ribbon-like, and carried passively to submerged female flowers. And also, as this pollination takes place in the water, to prevent the desiccation, the pollen grains are covered by mucilaginous coating. So, in case of water pollinated flowers, okay. So, insect pollinated flowers. Usually, insect pollinated flowers are large. They are brightly colored. So, what we can say? So, the flowers should offer certain floral rewards to the insect. That is in the form of either nectar, fragrance, sometimes bad odor also in case of Rafflesia. The flies are being attracted because of that bad odor. Need not be a good odor always, sometimes a foul smell also. Then they produce nectar and they are making sticky pollen, stigmatic surface, etc. provides rewards, floral rewards to the so-called as the insects. So majority of the insects are the honeybees which help in the pollination of flowers. So again honeybees, butterflies, moths, hummingbirds, whatnot, every organism almost, whenever an insect visits from one flower to the other, what it happens to its body hair, fine array of body hair will be there. So naturally what it happens, the pollen grain gets attached to this fine hair. So when it visits the another flower, so definitely there is a transfer of pollen grain takes place. Okay. Then pollen pistil interaction. What is the meaning? If the pollen grain belonging to the same species, the pollen grain of brinjal, if it reaches the pollen grain of stigma of lady's finger, it is not going to get germinate. It has to reach the brinjal only. The pollen grain of these plants, that means there exists a dialogue between the pollen grain and the stigma. So that only what we will call it as a stigma. What we can say, because of this it can identify whether that pollen grain belonging to its own species or not. That only what we will call it as recognition of compatible pollen. If it is its own pollen, definitely the pollen grain, certain chemical components of pollen and that of the stigma will recognize that it is its own pollen. Then the germination of the pollen grain takes place. Certain secretions, how this germination takes place. If it is the pollen, if it is a compatible pollen and it is stimulated it is going to stimulate the stigma and secrete certain substances, and it leads to the germination of pollen. So the intestine grows out through the germ pore, and the pollen moves into the pollen tube, the vegetative and generative cell. The generative cell, it is going to divide into male gamete. Earlier also I told, the vegetative cell is bigger in size and generative cell it is smaller. From this generative cell only, when it generative cell undergoes division, then only the two male gametes are going to get formed. So then coming to the next one, once the pollination takes place, once the stigma identifies it as compatible, and if it came to know that it is compatible because of the dialogue, because of secretion of certain substances, chemical substances, the germination of the pollen grain takes place. From the germ pore, the pollen tube comes out, the generative cell divides into two to form the two male gametes. So just now I told. So the pollen tube grows to the tissues of the stigma and starts by secreting the enzyme to digest them and enters the ovule through the micropyle. Just now I told about the structure of ovule, the minute pore which is present, that what we will call it as micropyle. Through this micropyle only the pollen tube reaches the embryo sac. So this just now I told the synergids on either side of the egg, you can find the synergids. On the synergids you can find the filiform apparatus. That filiform apparatus we cannot show in the textbook. If it is there, then you please go through that. This filiform apparatus directs the pollen tube towards the egg or ovum, where the male gamete fuses with the egg. That only what we will call it as fertilization. Then what is the fate of other male gamete? The other male gamete fuses with the two polar nuclei which is present in the central cell, and this male gamete fuses with the two polar nuclei. That only what we will, three nuclei are going to get fused. That condition what we will call it as a triple fusion, etc. So if you see carefully, the pollen grain when it reaches the stigma, it is a compatible pollen grain, and the pollen tube is piercing through the tissues and it is reaching it towards the so-called embryo sac. So this pollen tube consisting of